I think she hates him.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay, so we can all
That's a
agree on
given.
that. I also think that she wants to take him out. She does not want to be the first lady.
As you may heard, I filed a few lawsuits, and I'm in the court now because they accuse me of doing stuff that I never did in my life, and they wrote lies, and I will not allow that. I will fight till the end because I don't want that they damage my reputation and my name.
The View had once stood as an iconic mainstay of daytime television, known for its dynamic mix of personalities and its unapologetic dive into hot-button topics. The show became a place where diverse opinions collided, fueling lively debates on everything from pop culture to politics. Audiences loved the electric energy, with each episode sparking conversations in homes across the country, mirroring the debates of everyday life. But no one could have predicted just how quickly the show would descend into chaos, all triggered by one explosive lawsuit. In a matter of days, what had once been a staple of daytime TV was set ablaze by a chain reaction of controversies, each more shocking than the last. Even a team of seasoned producers and co-hosts couldn't put out the fire. When the smoke cleared, The View was no longer just a show. It was a symbol of the fragility of public media. The worst part? One of its most outspoken hosts, Sunny Hostin, found herself at the epicenter of the storm. The first whispers of trouble came quietly. Production staff began to notice a change in the atmosphere, a shift that could only be described as palpable tension. The usual lighthearted banter between the co-hosts had been replaced by careful, guarded conversations behind closed doors. It was as if the show was walking on eggshells, everyone conscious that one wrong move could trigger an even bigger fallout. Rumors started circulating about a looming lawsuit that could change everything. It wasn't just another routine complaint or minor legal skirmish. No, this lawsuit was different. The plaintiff, believed to be a high-profile individual with a reputation for aggressively defending their image, was not someone who could be easily bought off or silenced. What made the situation even more precarious was that the person behind the lawsuit had powerful connections in both corporate and political circles, making the stakes even higher. The first hint of what was to come occurred when Sunny H., known for her forthright commentary and willingness to speak her mind, made an on-air remark that would set everything in motion. At first, it appeared to be just another spirited debate, a hallmark of The View. Sunny and her fellow co-hosts took their seats, ready to dive into the day's controversial topic. But when the conversation took a sharp turn toward one particular public figure, things escalated quickly. Sunny, as she often did, didn't hold back. Her commentary was pointed, sharp, and relentless, tackling the issue head-on with no filter. The room fell eerily quiet. The usual background hum of the control room stopped dead in its tracks. Some viewers cheered her boldness, applauding her for calling out perceived wrongs. But others, particularly those with a vested interest in the subject of her critique, weren't as pleased. The target of Sunny's remarks was a figure known for fiercely defending their public image. They didn't take criticism lightly, and they certainly didn't forget when they were called out on live television. What followed in the days after was the stuff of media firestorms. Social media exploded, with both supporters and detractors weighing in on Sunny's words. Some fans hailed her as a hero for speaking truth to power, while others accused her of crossing a line. The controversy grew, gaining traction not only in the world of television but in broader public discourse. No one could have predicted what would come next. As the looming lawsuit started to take shape and threaten everything that The View had built over the years, the fallout from Sunny's fiery remarks continued to intensify. While some rallied behind her, praising her for speaking out against what they saw as injustice, others accused her of going too far, questioning the validity of her claims, and accusing her of floating unsubstantiated allegations. Backstage, the shift in mood was palpable. What had once been a lively and carefree environment began to feel fraught with tension and uncertainty. Staff members who had always been familiar with the show's ebb and flow started noticing a distinct change in Sunny's demeanor. One day she was her usual self, jovial, confident, and quick with a joke, but the next, she seemed distracted, unable to focus on the day's topics. Her usual sharpness was replaced with an almost palpable anxiety. It wasn't just Sunny who felt the weight of the situation. Even the other co-hosts started casting furtive glances at each other during segments, unsure how to respond to Sunny's growing discomfort. The unspoken question lingered in the air. How much further would this controversy go? What set this moment apart from past on-air dramas was the unmistakable presence of legal threats. The whispers that had started in the corridors about a potential lawsuit were no longer rumors. They were beginning to take shape. Sources close to the production team revealed that the high-profile individual Sunny had criticized was preparing to take legal action. This wasn't going to be a small claim. The lawsuit, insiders feared, could be massive, with the Views network and possibly even Sunny herself named as defendants. The rumored amount being sought was enough to send shockwaves through the network's executives. The View had faced its fair share of lawsuits over the years, but this was different. The figures being discussed were so staggering that even the seasoned legal team at ABC felt the weight of the situation. No one had expected something of this magnitude, and certainly no one had anticipated that the very existence of The View could be at risk. At first, Sunny seemed unfazed. She had dealt with legal threats before and was no stranger to the rough-and-tumble world of broadcast television. But as the days passed, her usual calm and resolute demeanor started to crack. The first sign came in the form of an official letter from the alleged plaintiff's legal team. This wasn't a tabloid rumor or social media buzz. It was a formal communication delivered directly to ABC. The letter made pointed allegations about defamatory statements aired on The View, citing specific segments and transcripts. It demanded not only a public retraction but also significant financial compensation. According to network insiders, it was clear this was no mere warning. It was a serious threat. The possibility of a lawsuit with its eye-popping price tag caused a ripple of panic among The View's producers. Emergency meetings were called. ABC's legal team pored over everything, from aired segments to internal communications. They combed through footage, scrutinizing each line for any sign of editorial misstep or potential misrepresentation. Were there any moments when the show had crossed the line? Were there moments where Sunny's passionate remarks had gone too far, especially when discussing unverified allegations? In the world of talk shows, it wasn't uncommon for controversial topics to be accompanied by disclaimers reminding viewers that the opinions shared were just that, opinions, not facts. But as the producers reviewed the material, it became clear that this situation was much graver. Some recalled an episode where Sunny, in her usual fiery style, had spoken quickly and passionately about serious allegations, referencing information that hadn't been fully substantiated. Could this be the moment that put them at risk? On the surface, the show tried to maintain its usual upbeat tone. Announcers carried on with their banter, discussing celebrity gossip and the latest political developments. But off-camera, the tension was palpable. The show's usual sense of fun seemed to evaporate, replaced by a more cautious atmosphere. Joy Behar, ever the jester, tried to lighten the mood with her humor, but her attempts felt forced. Whoopi Goldberg, a pillar of the show, appeared particularly reserved, avoiding comments that could be misinterpreted. It was as if the entire crew was holding its breath, unsure how the next twist in this legal drama would unfold. As the days wore on, it became increasingly clear that the tension within the View studio was mounting. Sarah Haynes, ever the diplomat, adopted a cautious wait-and-see approach, offering strained politeness whenever the topic of Sunny's comments came up. It was evident to everyone on set that the weight of the situation was pressing down on them, but no one could discern a clear way forward. The silence between segments felt heavier with each passing moment, a collective uncertainty hanging in the air. Then, the blow everyone had been fearing finally came. The lawsuit was officially filed, thick with legal citations and blunt assertions. The court papers alleged that both The View and Sunny Hostin had caused irreparable harm to the plaintiff's reputation by making specific factual claims without sufficient evidence. This wasn't a standard dispute. It was a full-fledged legal assault that would demand the show's full attention. Behind the scenes, The View's legal team scrambled to prepare a public response. The stakes were high. One wrong word, one misstep, could escalate the crisis beyond control. After much deliberation, the network released a statement acknowledging the lawsuit. Its tone was measured, reaffirming the show's commitment to defending its right to discuss matters of public interest. But the phrase matters of public interest carried a subtle implication. Could the original segment have gone too far? Could it have ventured beyond opinion into something more dangerous? Once the lawsuit became public, the atmosphere in the studio grew even more tense. Reporters and photographers descended on the location, eager for any new details or sensational tidbits. Cameras snapped photos as co-hosts hurried from their cars to the dressing rooms. Reporters shouted questions. Inside, the network's corporate partners began reacting with increasing caution. Alarmed by the negative press swirling around the show, major advertisers began to pull back. Campaigns were put on hold. Longtime sponsors quietly dropped their support. The loss of sponsorships was a financial blow, threatening the show's very survival. Rumors of The View's cancellation began circulating. Some staff members held on to hope, insisting that the show had weathered controversies before. But executives' reassurances grew fewer, replaced by urgent late-night meetings, legal consultations, and contingency planning. Staff members who had worked with the show for years began to feel a sense of inevitability. The end might be coming, and it felt alarmingly real. At the heart of it all was Sunny Hostin. Initially, she tried to project calm, carrying herself with the same confidence that had earned her a prominent spot on the show. But the chaos swirling around her became impossible to ignore. As the days wore on, coworkers began to notice the toll this legal drama was taking on her. One day, they saw her pacing near the makeup room, her eyes glassy, her thoughts miles away. It was as if she were on the brink of tears. Another day, she ducked into a corner of the corridor, speaking softly on her phone, presumably consulting with attorneys or close friends. Even producers who had long admired Sunny's fearless approach to speaking her mind began to question whether they had overlooked the emotional strain she might have been under. Had they missed the signs that something deeper was at play? As the stakes grew higher and the pressure mounted, it became clear that this wasn't just a legal battle, it was taking a personal toll on everyone involved. And at the center of it all, Sunny was left to navigate the storm she had unintentionally set in motion. Behind the scenes at The View, the tension was palpable. Producers and network executives alike were desperately trying to avoid a complete collapse. ABC's legal department suggested issuing a carefully crafted on-air statement from Sunny Hostin, one that might express regret for any misunderstandings caused by her comments. The hope was that it could help diffuse the situation, calming the storm of negative attention the show had drawn. But every time the suggestion was brought to Sunny, she hesitated. Part of her believed she had done nothing wrong. She had spoken out to hold a powerful figure accountable, just as The View had done for years with controversial figures. For her, the idea of retracting or softening her statements felt like a betrayal of everything the show had stood for. However, another part of her recognized the reality of the situation, that an apology, whether genuine or forced, might be the fastest way to calm the flames. The trouble was an apology could also be seen as an admission of liability, exactly what the network's legal team feared would strengthen the plaintiff's case. As the days passed, producers attempted to salvage what remained of the show's credibility and reputation. They met privately with sponsors, hoping to reassure them that ABC was taking the lawsuit seriously and was committed to addressing the concerns raised. But these attempts proved futile. As soon as one major sponsor, a well-known automotive brand, withdrew its backing, others quickly followed suit. The domino effect was swift and unforgiving, draining the show's financial support and leaving it on the brink. Finally, the network took action. ABC released an internal memo announcing that The View would be entering a temporary hiatus while the network worked through the ongoing legal challenges. Though the memo was careful not to use harsher language, it was widely understood as the first step toward winding the show down completely. The studio hallways, once filled with laughter and activity, grew eerily quiet as staff members began clearing out their desks and personal belongings. Many exchanged tearful goodbyes, uncertain of what the future held. Some held out hope that this was just a temporary setback, a brief pause before the show would return. But the veterans of The View, those who had been with the show through thick and thin, suspected that this hiatus was the beginning of the end. Within hours, the news spread like wildfire. The View was officially canceled due to the new lawsuit. Headlines splashed across tabloids and online news outlets as commentators eagerly dissected how a single lawsuit had brought down one of daytime TV's most iconic shows. Industry insiders pointed out